Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, and today it's time for Sketchbook Sunday, and this is a portrait I did. I wanted to practice a couple things today. I wanted to practice getting skin tones, and I wanted to have a nice, really fresh and light look to the skin tones, but still with plenty of color. And I also wanted to try out this hot press paper for a portrait. I used it the other day doing a sunrise scene, and I thought it would just be really fun to do portraiture. So I used a peach color pencil to map out my face and put the crosshairs where I wanted the eyes and the nose and lips to line up, and then I'm sketching on the eyes. Now the face is slightly turned, not quite a full 3/4 turn, but it's turned a little bit, so that's why I do have that center line kind of curved and off to the side a little bit. So I find that's really helpful for me to line up all of my features. Now you could do all of your sketching with a watercolor pencil, but one of the reasons I went to a graphite pencil is so that the lines don't wash away as I'm working, and also so you can see my lines really well, because that peach watercolor pencil, I was just afraid that it was going to be washed out. And on my monitor, my colors looked pretty good, but I can see here that that it's really light, so I just wanted to make sure you could see everything all right. And I just got the hair. I ended up covering up the ear in the end, but I wanted to get it in there. And here, actually, I think I had the nose better first. I think I have the tendency to make eyes a little too big and noses a little too small, and I think that's what I did here. I kind of like the nose, how it's sketched right there, but I did seem to thin it out a little bit during my painting process, so it's something I'm going to have to watch in the future. And actually, after I took a photo of my finished painting, I realized I should have some more hair up at the top, because I feel like the head is too short. Like, I feel like there's not enough brain room. And granted, the hair is very flat and kind of like plastered to her head almost a little bit, like it's not foofy. So it kind of exaggerates that as well. So I might actually go in there later and add some more to the top of the head, but I'm going to let it sit overnight. But that's just something I realized after I took the photo of it, after I was all done in the painting. And that's where, you know, self-critique can be really handy, taking a photo of your work or letting it sit and coming back to it, or looking at it in a mirror, because you'll see it a little bit more realistically after that. Now for my skin tone mix, I'm using yellow ochre. I'm using a little bit of quinacridone red. I'm using some cerulean blue, which I thought would give me an interesting cool blue, but then I realized I needed to get some of my old standby. I needed to get some warm red, and I believe I used a cad red medium, and I also ended up adding, not yet, but I will be adding some ultramarine blue with some burnt sienna for some shadows as well. So I do have more colors than I typically like to use in skin tones, but since I'm layering, I think it works out all right. I feel like the skin tone ended up being very luminous, and on this first layer, I was kind of frustrated because I didn't have as much color down that I wanted. I really wanted to get more in on that first layer, but the look I was trying to get, I think, is probably best achieved in layers. I was going for this kind of like very luminous. I wanted a very luminous, fresh, I wanted to kind of look like, you know, maybe she had just, you know, run in from the cold and her cheeks are flushed. That's kind of the look I'm going for. So for the hair, I'm using a dagger brush. I really enjoy Taklon dagger brushes for hair because you can vary thick and thin lines. You can get a lot of control. You can get, you can like not have a ton of brush paint on your brush and still get a really nice crisp line. And I'm using a variety of different colors here. I'm using burnt sienna on its own. Then I took some burnt sienna and cerulean blue and made this kind of like, I would say almost like cool gray color. Not gray like as in gray hair, but not like quite a pitch black, I guess is what I'm going for. It's like a cool shadow would be a better way to describe that, I think. And then when I realized I couldn't get my values as dark as I wanted with that cerulean blue, I used some ultramarine with a burnt sienna to get a darker black. I probably could have actually gone in with a black here as long as I was going to use it elsewhere in the picture, and it would have been fine. So this is a situation where I probably should have just tried it. I tend to like to mix all my own grays and darks, and colors like black can be so overpowering and heavy that I didn't want to risk introducing that in on a portrait where it could kind of gray stuff down and make it feel a little dead. I'm adding in some toning on the lips. Now, when I did the skin tone itself, I went over all the skin area, nose, lips, everything but the eyeballs. So this is kind of layering up there. And here I'm doing some of the shadows because I wanted a fairly strong light on the face to define the features. Now, I don't have a reference photo to share, and that's because I used the photo I used for lighting reference, it was actually of a man. And then I thought, you know, you never know who's in these photos. It was from Unsplash, so it was appropriate to use, but I wouldn't want somebody to think that they look like a woman if they're a man and they don't want to, you know, so I didn't want to offend anybody. And this really doesn't look anything like the reference photo other than my color reference, but I did like the full mouth and full eyebrows on the model that was in the reference photo, but I was using it mostly for coloring and shadow. And I did pump up the coloring because I really wanted the skin to be really kind of bright and luminous and almost a little bit cartoony. Maybe cartoony is the wrong word, but I wanted it to be very fresh and modern and bright. Like I mentioned, I wanted really full eyebrows, and there's also shadow because the eyebrows are kind of heavy, the brow bone's kind of heavy, so there's a lot of shadow in the eye sockets. So for this first pass with the eyebrows, I was doing like eyebrows and shadow together in the same burnt sienna. And then I dropped in some cerulean blue and some yellow ochre and a little bit of ultramarine blue toward the outside edges of the eyes, so I would have a multi-tonal eye. Because if you look at somebody in the eyes, you really look at their eyes, they're not one solid color. There's lots of little flecks of different colors. Even if someone has blue eyes, there's going to be gray, there might be a little bit of green, there'll be blue, you might even see little hints of gold. So I just wanted to get some of these different colors in there so the eyes wouldn't look flat. I like to go in and get my shadows fairly soon off the bat because I find that that's kind of the brave point, and that's the point where you may get timid as you get further on in the picture, not wanting to ruin it, especially nostrils and under the nose, because nose shadows can go really wrong and look really harsh because your nose is the same color as the rest of your skin. It's just defined by the shadows and the light highlights on it, whereas your lips have a little bit more red to them, and obviously your eyes are a different color, and then you have your eyebrows, but the nose is the same color as your skin. So you have to be kind of careful with your nose shadows that you don't have the person looking like a pig or something with a really like a snout. You know, you have to be careful about that. I like to turn my paper while I'm working, and I'm also working on an angle here. I just grabbed a sack of markers that I had and tucked it under my sketchbook so it would pop it up a little bit, so it would be easier for me to see it because I was sitting down. Now this painting took me about an hour, not quite an hour to do, so you know, if I'm going to spend a lot of time and I'm doing something intricate, kind of like a sketch or a watercolor painting, I will tend to sit. And I find looking across a drawing like that from a sitting position, I can get skewed really easily. So just putting it on an angle really helps me quite a bit as far as that. So this is kind of the technique I was really trying to explore here, and that would be putting a splashy, bold color down and then rinsing my brush and blotting it and then spreading it out a little bit. And I think that was such an effective way to give her that flushed glow in her cheeks and neck. And that's really what I was after. So I was really pleased with how that turned out. So it took a few layers, and I didn't know if I was going to get there because those first few layers, I was like, oh, it's just so bland. And the first layer I do on the hot press paper, I'm not used to hot press. And that's why I say try different things, because it will open your mind and expand you to different things, open your mind to different things, is that when you put that first layer down the hot press, it looks like a sweater that's pilling. You get these little, I don't know if it's bubbles from the water or the paint or what, but it looks like the paper's pilling. It's not. When it dries, it's completely flat and beautiful. And I don't know what that is exactly. It might be this paint. This is the Renaissance paint, and I'm not totally familiar with using it. When I'm working up in my office, I have a full set of those paints upstairs and a full set of the tubes, so it's just really convenient for me to have those up here where I have a full set. But I don't know if it's that paint or the hot press paper, because it doesn't do it on the cold press paper, so I think it's hot press paper in general. But I'm really pleased with how, you know, everything was blending out and working on it. Something that felt kind of odd on the paper, though, I have to say, was when I was working on the hair with a dagger brush, I felt like the paint almost wanted to not absorb into the paper. And I don't know if it's because hot press paper is like ironed under hot rollers, if that keeps the paint more on the surface and less absorbent. I'm not sure, or if it's the Renaissance paint. This is the tube Renaissance paints that I have here in these pans. But in any event, I do like the effect that I got, and I think it looked pretty cool. The colors don't look as saturated here, and I think that might be because the paper being so smooth, it reflects so much light back to the camera, or it could have been one of my settings was different, or it could be both, quite frankly, because my camera is fairly new and I'm still getting the hang of it. I decided to go in with a white gel pen to add highlights, add sparkles to the eye and the lips, and add some glimmers of highlight into the hair. And for a final touch, which I wasn't sure if I was going to do this or not, but since I was a little afraid to, I decided that I would, because I believe that when you're afraid to do something, or you're afraid to ruin a picture, as long as it's not like something you're doing for work and it's, you know, somebody is paying you to do it, you should push through that fear and try it, because that's where you grow as an artist and that's where the breakthroughs lie. And I was happy that I did. It enabled me to brighten up the color on the lips and the eyes. And add some, you know, dark highlights to the hair, and I felt like I really kind of needed that. And I was really pleased with the way it came out. If you would like to see me do more portraiture, please let me know in the comments below. I did put last week's Sketchbook Sunday video in long format in Critique Club, and I will link that below as well if you're interested in that. I don't think I'll put this one in Critique Club because I was a little disappointed with my lighting situation, but if you'd like to see more portraiture, please let me know, and I'd like to do some more of that too. So I want to thank you so much for watching. Here are some still photos that capture the colors a little bit better, as they were more saturated than the video showed, and I'm really happy with it. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up before you go. Until next time, happy crafting.